Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Tree Spirit Challenge in hardcore no less, and this is episode 6. If you watched last episode, you'll know that we created an animal agriculture area and now we have animals that we can breed. There's cows, there's pigs, there's sheep, there's chicken. There's the things we need within these very early stages of the game. And of course, the episode before that we had crops, so we can breed those animals up. This episode, however, I'm wanting to do something a bit different, and as you can see, we are back at the village. We found, what was it, on episode 3 I believe, and as you can see there are a lot of villagers in the area. My aim is to create an area for these guys to breed up and increase their population, but of course it's not going to be done over here, it's going to be back at base. So we're going to be building an entire breeder from scratch over there back at base for the villagers to eventually accommodate and increase their numbers there. It is getting to that point where the sooner we get those guys over there breeding, the better for us, because we're going to have access to all of their resources, and they have a lot of good resources to offer. I'm thinking like diamond armor, diamond tools, etc. And of course the iron golems that are going to be spawning, we can use them for gaining iron. So there's a lot to be said about getting villagers. So I'm going to quickly go back to base and we are going to find an area for where the breeder is going to go. Okay, we're back at base and I've done a little looking around off camera about where I think a good position for the village breeder is going to be, and it's going to be somewhere that is close but not right next to the main base. Well, I suppose it is going to be right next to the main base, but it's going to be a little distance off. Well, no, it's not really going to be a little distance off. What am I saying? I found an area, it is still very close by, so it's going to be massively convenient for us. But this is it. This area here you see on screen, this is where I want it. We want it up here in the mountains, and then we're going to have hopefully a pathway that leads down from this back to the base. There will be a lot of work involved because we are going to have to clear out a lot of this cobblestone and we're going to have to place a lot of logs. It's not going to be something small, it's going to be a fairly sizable village breeder. I'm hoping to, I don't know, fit around, I don't know, maybe at least 80 villager inhabitants, of course, and we want space around them. We want space around the building for iron golems to walk around and for a perimeter to come out, and then we're going to have a perimeter out from that as well. So yeah, this is where I think I've settled on having the village breeder. I can't think really of anywhere else. This seems to be the best location. So we're going to go ahead now and lay down a bit of a perimeter of the breeder itself, try and get an idea of the dimensions. Okay, so these are the dimensions of the villager breeder. As you can see, it's a fairly sizable area. It's about the same sort of size as the crop farm, I'd say. And this isn't for the entire villager breeder area. This is just for the breeder itself. So we are going to have an area around this. So this is just the breeder itself. This is the edge of the building, and it's not going to be anything fancy. It's just going to be a single story, like square building with windows, nothing too fancy. It just needs to house the villagers, preventing them from escape and preventing them from harm. And I think this is, I mean, it's going to be more than enough. I'm pretty sure I can fit 80 villagers. I probably fit double that, to be honest, but with the amount of floor space for beds, maybe not 180, but we could fit definitely more than 100 in here. So this is a really good size. It is going to mean we are going to have to clear all of this area, and it is going to take a bit of time, but we are going to do that. In fact, we are going to go into a quick time lapse of myself removing all of these blocks and replacing them with heart tree logs. Okay, that is the area complete. As you can see, it's not huge, but it is a pretty sizable building. As you can see, this is more than enough space for what we have planned. We're going to build up from here. We're going to make it into something that resembles a building, but in terms of dimensions and floor space, yeah, this is a really good amount of space for what we're going to do. Okay, so it looks a lot more like a building, and all I've really done to the place is just put a roof on it. As you can see, the roof is not comprised completely of heart tree logs. So what I did is I went with a zigzagging pattern, and this is really to try and conserve heart tree logs. We don't need to put the entire ceiling as heart tree logs. Also, a pattern does look kind of nice. It does kind of mix things up a bit. Yes, it does have all it is heart tree logs and planks, but all of those heart tree logs are connected, and they are still connected to the heart tree. Seeing as we are connected to a heart tree if we are either directly touching or next to a heart tree log, or if we're on a block that is directly touching the heart tree log. All of those planks, if we were to stand on them, as you can see, they are one block away from the heart tree log. So yeah, we would still be connected to the heart tree even if we was to go on top of the village breeder and walk around, which is what I had in mind when building this, because I'm sure iron golems are going to spawn, and if they are going to spawn on top, I'd like to be able to get on top of the building and still be connected to the heart tree, and that will enable us to go about taking care of them or killing them for iron. We also lit the breeder up. This is just to prevent mobs from spawning. We will put more torches in than this at the moment, but for now, with the roof on, it does create quite a few dark patches, and as the day goes by, we are going to see mobs start to spawn, and I don't want that when I come back to this breeder after sleeping to have to deal with skeletons and creepers, especially because we don't have any armor at the moment. It's going to make things a bit dicey if it comes to it. I'm getting a real feel for this place now, and I think this is going to be a very suitable place for the villagers. Okay, yeah, we are back again, and it's looking even more like a village breeder. As you can see, we haven't really done much. All we've done is put in the walls and left a lot of holes out for where the windows are going to be, because I do want natural light coming into the village breeder. I just think windows really do make a building. They really do a lot to transform the space, and I do want to be able to see in, and when I'm inside the breeder, I do want to be able to see out, and having multiple windows like that, well, numerous windows like this is just what I'm after. Also, I did light up the top of the breeder. I forgot when I was laying down the torches before that the village breeder on top of the roof would also be susceptible to mobs spawning, so I did have to go back and put torches up there. Luckily, no mobs had spawned from the previous night, but just to make sure they don't spawn, I did light the area up. I mean, of course, with any iron golems around, they probably would take care of any mobs, although I don't think they take care of creepers. Am I right in saying that? But then again, villagers do spawn cats, so creepers would be kind of skip, but just having them in their area is just not good. Yeah, what am I talking about? I'm talking as if I'm trying to justify not having torches. I do need torches up there, and as you can see, we have put torches up here. Much better. Okay, next off, we have the village breeder. We do have to put in the actual glass panes for the windows. Until then, though, while we wait for, because I went out and collected a bit of sand for smelting, while we wait for them to smelt, we are going to start marking out the dimensions for the area around the outside of the village breeder, because as I said, it's not just going to be the village breeder standing on its own. We are going to have an area around the outside. This is it. This is the area around the outside of the village breeder. It is very spacious. It gives us ample room to move about, and ample room for iron golems to move about if they spawn. And I'm hoping if they do spawn, because there is enough space, they will move to an area of the village breeder, or of the area that the village breeder sits in, for more iron golems to spawn if I'm, like, say, tree farming or something. We have gone with a different pattern. As you can see, we've gone with stripes, but they are all connected to the heart tree. They are disconnected around most of the breeder, but with the main pathway that we put in, by the way, we did put in the main pathway, they are all connected, as you can clearly see. This I mean, I would like to say it's an architectural decision to do it for a good design, sort of like the roof. It just sort of mixes up a bit rather than just seeing nothing but logs facing up. I wish I could say that, but it's because we're running out of logs, and yes, I could mine a lot more, I could harvest a lot more from the tree farm, but I'd rather not do that. I'd rather conserve what we have, and while we have the momentum of building up the village breeder, I'd rather continue with that momentum. And so what I've done is I've put out this pattern to conserve logs, because we've basically effectively cut the amount of logs needed in half, or maybe by about 45%. So that's a massive reduction in the amount of heart tree logs needed, which is brilliant. And so we're going to fill in the gaps with planks, and of course, because each of the planks will be right next to the heart tree logs, we're still going to be connected to the heart tree, so it doesn't matter about this pattern. And of course, like I said, all these heart tree logs are in fact still connected to the heart tree, so you don't have to worry about me cheating, because I'm not. We do have a path now. I did briefly just mention that the heart tree logs, the rings of heart tree logs around the village breeder, are all connected via the pathway. Yes, we have put in a pathway, and that is going to be our main pathway to and from this village breeder from our main base, and it runs from where the doorway is of the village breeder to the tree farm. We may put in another pathway to this place in the future. For now, just the one is fine. But yeah, it's starting to really come together, and now we know the size and the dimensions. It's, yeah, I'm really happy with the way things are going. Okay, and that is all of the gaps filled out. That's basically all we've done since I last left off. Yeah, and now the area looks a lot more complete. Oh, we also put in the glass panes, as you can see, so the village breeder itself does have windows in there, so that is basically a complete building. Very happy with that. And you know, the mixture of spruce logs, spruce heart tree logs, and planks as the flooring, it is a very similar shade, a very similar gradient of colour. So it's only a subtle pattern, but you know, it does do something for the area. It does mix things up, and maybe I should do this in the future for things. Rather than place an entire area of heart tree logs, I could in fact instead do a pattern such as this, because we're still connected to the heart tree, but we are effectively saving a massive amount of heart tree logs, and it seems kind of sensible. It seems actually pretty clever to do this rather than wasting all those heart tree logs. Maybe it's something to think about in the future in terms of floor space at least. And at this point, we are almost finished with the build. We've just got a few areas that I would like to get done, a few things I'm going to get done, and then I'm going to recoup and talk about what we've done and how the area is complete. We should complete it in this next clip, or next clips. The area is complete. Excellent. I just want to say I'm massively happy with how things look. Yeah, it looks brilliant. We have a fence around the outside, we have beds in the breeder, we have torches everywhere. Yeah, you can quite clearly see that the area is now complete. It is basically up and running for business, so as soon as we get villagers in here, we can start breeding them up. Yeah, I will tell you about what we have done. You can clearly see what has changed, but I will still talk you through it. After I last left off, what I did, as with every other area of our base, we mined out a perimeter from the edge of the heart tree logs out from their 4 blocks. And yeah, I've talked about this in multiple episodes, but basically this is to prevent mobs from climbing in over the fences that we are going to be placing out, because we're going to have a fence around the outside of the perimeter, and if we have blocks of the same level, mobs on the other side of the fence can just step up onto the blocks and then over the fence, and that's not something we want because it's not particularly safe. So in order to prevent that, I mine out a perimeter of blocks away from that fence, so no matter how high those blocks are, they won't be able to get over the fence because there's too much space in between the edge of the fence and those blocks. Of course, after that perimeter was built, we built the fences, and the perimeter and fences didn't only extend to just the village breeder. We did make sure we secured the pathway to and from this villager breeder from our base. So that meant, yes, mining out a bit of a perimeter away from that, and there wasn't too many blocks to do on the path, and it also meant placing fences in, because if they can get onto the path, they can effectively get into our area. That's not something we want. Mobs, that is. Of course, we also put torches out on the other side of the fences. This is to just push where mobs can spawn slightly further away, and then we placed torches within our new area of our base. It took a lot of torches, but it is completely mob proof. And then in order to get access to this area, I put gates in on the footpath between the tree farm and the villager breeder, and we put pressure plates down, so when I walk across them, the gates just automatically open. And then all that was left was to put beds inside the villager breeder, because without them, we're not going to be able to breed the villagers when they do eventually come here, which shouldn't be too long. And maybe next episode we'll be getting into what we'll be doing in just a minute. Yeah, so I filled in the entire breeder with beds. Fortunately, I have been breeding the sheep up off camera, and I have been gathering a lot of wool via shears, so we did have a lot of beds. And man, I underestimated how many beds this breeder could take. Yeah, we are going to have a lot of villagers if I was to breed it all the way up to full capacity, and I don't think I will do that. Even half the capacity I'd probably be fine with, because we are going to also be outsourcing villagers from this area to other areas of the base when and as we need them. So yeah, that's basically what we did. Yeah, I am massively happy with how things have turned out. I think the villager breeder, while it might not be the most complex of builds, I mean, it's a very simple build, it does the job and it does it effectively, and that's all we was aiming for. Again, this is the very early stages of the game, so I don't feel guilty about not making something extremely intricate or fancy. You know, those will come with time. For the time being, we're just trying to gather materials, and I didn't want to spend 10-20 hours on this build when, you know, you could effectively do it in 2 or 3 and do the same job. Yeah, so as for plans for next episode, I am leaning towards going out gathering some villagers, or gathering a couple of villagers from the village we found back on episode 3, if it was episode 3, and bringing them back here. The only problem with that is that that village is like 1700 blocks away from this breeder, so that's going to make things extremely difficult, and we don't have iron, not enough iron at least, to make tracks. I mean, I don't even have iron armor, so you can forget about making tracks for a minecart to deliver them. So it would have to be, I don't know, by boat, and that's gonna take such a long time. We'll see. I'm leaning towards doing that. It is something I'm trying, I sort of want to put off, but it is at the same time something we have got to tackle, and I'd rather tackle it sooner rather than later, get it out of the way with. So yeah, that is it for this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.
Lord, let me get my cash right. I'm trying to fly, still tired from last night. Putting that work in to all of my earthlings. When them haters acting up, gotta give them that act right. Back up on the scene with some flame shit. Different